Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Truth and Law. My name is Konrad Rogoz. I got a bit of a new episode. It's not an episode. It's a bit of a new video I'm doing. It's not an episode of anything. It's not This Week in Tyranny. It's not The Warrior Path. I'm going to talk about a specific topic, and it's not anything too formal, but I came up with this today and I'm going to do it. So the stuff I've been talking about, this warrior path, the love of wisdom, the pursuit of truth, this stuff is all about the infinite beauty of this world and uniting with that, and also honoring it by being the best version of you, me being the best version of me, by being a hero in this world, and thus inspiring everybody else to be a hero. That's the whole point of doing this. That's the whole point of life, as I understand it, as I currently understand it. The whole point of living, the only thing that makes sense to me, is living the best way you can, making the most of everything you are given, so that the other people become inspired to do the same thing for them. It's not because I want to save the world. I want everybody to be happy being the best version of them, right? So one of the directions that I'm going to focus my work is going to be about children. Teaching this deep wisdom to kids, and also how to raise kids. You know, all kinds of evil people in the world, they are targeting our children. They're all giving them all sorts of messaging. I'm going to make sure to really dedicate a lot of effort for children, because this is one of the big things this is one of my big things that I do this for. I really can't stand the neglect, the violence against children. This kind of stuff sets me off, but this is not going to be an angry video. This is a loving video. So I wanted to talk about my childhood and my upbringing. And the reason I wanted to talk about it is because there are a lot of lessons to be learned from that in connection with the work I'm going to be doing that has to do with kids, right? This is really just going to be like an intro, and what it really is like a public brainstorming. I just want to record these ideas, put them out there. I wrote some of them down earlier. Just putting this forward as like when we're talking about the philosophy of raising children and teaching them. And that's why I'm going to open comments for this one. So feel free to comment what your thoughts are, any other thoughts, anything. Because I do want input, because I'm not a parent. So I'm a bit, I'm always a bit careful talking about what is the correct way to raise children, because how can I really know at this point, right? So that's why I'm opening the comments, especially if you're a parent. Most of my friends are parents, so definitely drop the comments. But I'm gonna open up what I think, especially in regards looking back at my childhood, what I think the correct way to raise a child is, right? So, but to recreate my personal journey, to recreate my path, to kind of create a person who is like me through the kind of upbringing and decisions that I made through doing that. If you were to recreate my path, you would have a person that has a certain early death, almost 100% of the time assured. So I don't think that my path should be attempted to be recreated, clearly. But there are lessons from my upbringing about how a child should grow up. There is some gold there that could be extracted from that soil, and there are some ideas that could be extrapolated from that. So when I say that I had the perfect childhood, and sometimes I say this, my mom and dad are probably watching this, laughing. They're going to be laughing hysterically, or they're going to be shaking their head, because nobody in their right mind would say that I grew up in a good, stable household, right? Not that it was so toxic or dysfunctional, but my parents were split up, and I live with my mom, and she was usually at work, always making ends meet, barely. This is a tough time financially. Of course, didn't do homework with me. I didn't have to do chores or anything like that. There was really no time for that. I did whatever I wanted to. In fact, the only thing I had to do that I didn't want to do was just actually going to school, right? But here are the three things that I think are absolute gold that I was brought up with, that you can attribute all of the good things, some of the good things about me, to these three things about my childhood. So one, I was never told that I wasn't good enough to do something. I was never placed any limits on my potential. I was never criticized that I was stupid or weak. I never heard these things said to me. No one ever told me I couldn't do something. Nobody told me that I had to do this and become this in order to become this. Kids get all this fear rhetoric from not only parents but family members and then their friends, and they constantly have to deal with pressure and anxiety. I never even knew what pressure and anxiety was until I placed it on myself in my teenage years. I had no pressure growing up. I never felt inadequate. And because my self-belief was never broken as a child, my self-belief will never be broken by anybody or anything now. So I think that's why I put this first. I think this is crucial, and I don't need any feedback on this. I know this is true. Do not limit your children. Do not limit their potential by telling them they're not good enough. I see parents and grandparents showing kids, like they're showing all these videos of these other people's kids, how amazing they are. Just take a minute. Like how does that child feel right there? You're showing them all this. You're implying that they're shit and somebody else is amazing, right? So I could go on, but I want to go to the next point. The next point, which is my basic physical needs were always met. So I never went hungry, even though we were on the verge, but I never went hungry. I never doubted that I would have a roof over my head. And you might think this is a basic thing that everybody has, but nah. Many children, they have this uncertainty, even if they have a rich family and like a luxurious upbringing and a materially comfortable life, because their basic physical needs are not just food and shelter. It's also whether or not you have peace and quiet of laying your head on your own bed at night undisturbed. And so many kids don't have that. Because when parents fight, when parents drink, when they argue and degrade each other, that's like tearing the roof off of a child's house. So that's a basic physical need, like a human right, that so many children are robbed of. And I never had that. It wasn't peachy by any means, but I never had that. And that goes along with the first point I make about me not being, I wasn't being demeaned, or I wasn't being limited of what my potential is. These are just kind of like basic, there was no damage done to my internal peacefulness and my stillness. And I think you could see that when you watch my videos. Like, I'm fine. Everything could go to shit around me. I'll always have that. I'll always have that comfort because I was given that by my parents. To a large degree, I was given it by their absence. And that's something to be thought about as a parent. It's just like, should you be there 24 hours a day in every little aspect of your child? Maybe not. Maybe you are laissez-faire and give them some space, right? Like it was with me. And the third point, the third aspect that I had, honestly, I love to learn and I love to read and I love numbers and formulas. But I think that if my parents did do homework with me, or I was going to like extra classes or had a tutor, I don't think I would have learned. I don't think I would have loved to learn. I don't think I would have went to go read books when I didn't even know how to read them. I developed this myself because no one ever told me to read or forced me to read. But the books were on the shelf. The access was there. And this is because we didn't have a bunch of toys or like coordinated activities. I didn't have baseball practice at 6, choir at 7:30. I didn't have summer camp and dance and all this stuff. I didn't have any activities like that planned for me. And I would just get so bored in my house that I would pick up the books, but my grandfather's old books, and I would just start exploring them. And I made that decision out of my free will. And the only powerful, impactful decisions are those that are made in free will. And why is this important? Is because, yes, high intelligence is important. the actual knowledge and grammar in life is like an important part in life. And this is not to say that I know to a large degree intelligence is a gift and people don't have as much of it, and it's not their fault. But the truth is, if you're not a smart person who knows a lot and can see patterns, it's going to be very hard to be a good person in life. Because if you're ignorant, you're going to hurt others. No matter how warm your intentions are and how pure your heart is. That's the cold truth. I really think that. So I think parenting should be focused on like nurturing and bringing up intelligence big time. But the thing is, if you push to force kids to learn when they're not ready to learn, they're probably not going to develop the love for it. So I guess the important thing is to make sure that the access to that is there. But the access should be there, but they should not be forced to do that, because then you're limiting their access to other things. So I think those three things make up a big portion of what the backbone of conscious parenting should be. And many of the things I'll talk about when I finish up, when I make this presentation, not finish it when I started it, they're going to contain a lot from these three things. I think these three aspects that I just came up with today, they're crucial. It's just like, this is it. This itself, if it was only this will create some beautiful people. And not everybody, because I was very close to making the wrong decision too. So, and you could have, because it's not, the parents aren't the only influencing factor on children, right? You could be a perfect parent and have all of the methodologies, but if they're traumatized, or if there's external influence or other factors, there are going to be things that, or if other people take your kids away, as happens all the time in our world. You know, we live in a sick world, so that's not to say that this should be taken as gospel of what to do with your kids. But hey, that's why it's a brainstorm session, and that's why I'm going to leave it there. Laissez-faire, natural parenting, natural being the key word that I didn't really mention here. Natural parenting, meaning you provide your child with warmth, care, nutrition, and shelter, but very little outside of that. This is just giving them the tools necessary for life's battles, but not fighting your life's battles for your kids, because that's actually hurting them. So thank you very much, and I'd like to hear your thoughts. Take it easy.